Welcome to the Tonya Hoffman's fabulous TV show. I am your host, Tonya Hofmann. And as always, we have an incredible, oh my gosh, fabulous guest star, Miss Odette Peek. Hey, Odette.
How are you? That is the best introduction I've ever had. That's so cool. But just your excitement.
Great. You're like, yay!
Yeah.
So we're going to hear from Odette in just a minute, but I wanted to remind you that we have the Public Speakers Conference coming up. So, of course, you want to go check out Public Speakers Association, allspelledout.com to find out how you too could go out and change the world from the front of the room. But don't miss the conference July 6th through the 8th in Vegas, baby. So make sure you're there because you definitely don't want to be square. So, all right, let's get back over to Miss Odette. So, Odette, tell us about you and how fabulous everything's going for you and all.
Oh, everything's been amazing. 2018 has been, or is a banner year for me so far. Really, I did a rebrand. I took a look at myself and went, okay, what direction do I want to take my business and my life? Because I'm over the 50, as you are as well, turned 51 this year. And it's like, what's on the horizon? And really decided that I want to help entrepreneurs uncover what their personal story is, what I call their soul story, and help them write their signature talk. And just like you talk about, change the world from the front of the room. So I teach them how to do that. And I add a little bit of a spin, which is how to sell from the front of the room. And not necessarily buy my product, buy my stuff, but just selling people on the idea to think differently, to do differently, to take action. And just to get to have a little bit more, to take a little bit away from you to them so that they go, I remember Odette, I remember Mary, I remember Tonya. And that is what is the most important thing.
I know. I think it's very interesting because I just came back from a conference in Vegas and the speakers were great, but I couldn't even tell you most of their names because I didn't even write anything down, right? There's value that you need for people to walk away with instead of just, oh, I feel good now. I mean, what are you digging into?
The fact that, okay, there's many different types of speakers. I kind of categorize them into three. The best category is the one that motivates you, excites you. Maybe you buy from them, maybe whatever it is, but they have got you up off the seat, off your butt, going to the back of the room to get something, or they inspire you to make a difference in your life. And then you actually do the thing that they tell you to do. That's sort of scenario number one, which is fabulous. But the majority of speakers don't fall into that category. They fall into the I'm boring as hell category. They tell you how amazing they are. They don't necessarily tell you their entire hero's journey. They just tell you how they're the hero. And they just fire hose you with content. And then the other category are people who are on the cusp. They've got a little bit of the hero's journey, but they still want to show how fabulous they are. Yet they dive a little bit into the story, but then they go back into content because they think that education is what's going to make a difference in your life. And that can't be farthest from the truth. Now, I've been in all three categories. I've had the ego-driven conversations.
Yeah, right.
That's how I know. And I realized that when I started to share my story, and from a place of heart and authenticity and vulnerability, excuse me, that things started to change for me, but for my audience. So now when I speak and I'm telling my story and I'm giving them content and I'm creating what I call an experience for people, you can hear a pin drop in the room because people aren't checking their phones. They're not, being distracted. They're going, oh my God, I want to hear more about the story. And when you weave story with content and you weave it together in a way that it doesn't sound like they're being educated, people listen more, they take more notes. And then at the end of your talk, you must have a call to action. And this is where the majority of speakers fall short because they're afraid to sell. They're afraid to ask the audience to do something. And many talks are the 10-minute, 15, 20-minute talk that you're leaving not only opportunity and money on the table, but you're leaving your audience hanging by not giving them something to do. And that does the audience a disservice. Because they're all salivating, they're all loving what you're saying, and then they don't know what to do with it. So you got to give them instructions. As adults, we need to be told exactly what to do. So it's like, go do this in the next 24 hours and your life will be different. Go think this, feel this way, connect with that person, reach out, whatever it is. And the call to action can also be to you. Here's my free guide, here's my ebook, whatever it is, or here's my program. But it gives the audience something to do. And that is the nugget for the audience. And that's what's most important. get over your fear of asking the audience to do something.
Yes, for me, this is why I created the Public Speakers Association, is that I saw speakers and they would be awesome, but then I feel like, well, I don't get to go further with you. There's nothing next. And these people don't understand. This is all about marketing. This is about getting me into your life and getting me, to where we become friends, there's all kinds of friends, right? Nowadays, especially with social media, there's a whole different level of friends we never knew we could have.
Oh, I'm so popular now. I got 5,000 friends.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've got to realize that if the audience doesn't go further in some way, which is some type of a sell or, lead generation that turns into a sell, you really aren't giving them the value because they can't learn enough that it's going to change their life forever in just 30 minutes or an hour, right?
Exactly. And I think that as a speaker, as a business owner, speaking is a fabulous way to grow your business. It's a fabulous way to create impact. So let's just go back to whatever the 50s were, the 40s, the 50s. What did people do when they had a message? Well, they got their soapbox. And if you don't know what a soapbox is, it's just a wooden box or a milk carton, and they stood on it. And they might have had a megaphone or they shouted to the audience, but that's how they drew in followers, because speaking is a way to get followers. And that's ultimately what it is that you want to do if you want to grow your life, but if you have a message that you want to get out there in the world. And I think that people look at it from the wrong perspective, or the perspective of fear of selling. Like the majority of people that I coach have this innate fear of, I can't sell, I can't ask someone to do something because then that's not the right thing to do. But it's actually the wrong thing to do, is by not asking, because you make it all about you when it's all about your audience. And you've got to give them the best shot that they can to change their life or their business or whatever. They came to hear you speak, to be inspired and motivated. And motivated means to move. And so, number one, get over the mindset funk about having to sell or having to ask someone to do something. Speaking is the fastest way, and probably the only way, in my opinion, to really get your message out on a big way. Not hiding behind your computer and sitting there and trying to fix your website. And speaking can come in many different ways, just like we're doing right now, online webinars or seminars, telesummits. But in person, there's a value to being in person on stage, because it gets you out in the real world so that people can get to know, like, and trust you from sensory, like not that necessarily they're going to be touching you, but they see you move, your real life. And that hasn't changed. And I think that computers and social media has a place to be in conjunction with speaking and being in front of the room, but I don't think it replaces it.
Right. No, totally. And one of the things that really kind of stands out for me when people are speaking, right, is if you are just speaking at people, you don't really care what's going to happen afterwards. And that's why I think it is so important that as a speaker, you take your audience on a journey with you beyond just the event, right? Yeah. And that is the sell, that is the offer, that is the lead generation that's going to get them to be a part of your world. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people really fall short. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. They talk about, stage presence and this and that, when yeah. Or you probably have this too, because I had this huge issue where I was always focused on the 20% that would never pipe for me, okay, instead of the rest of the audience, right? Okay. And you're like, why don't they like me? What's wrong with me? Instead of going, oh, look at these people, they're all excited, let me go talk to them.
Yeah. I had a great conversation with the keynote speaker last year when I was doing a workshop. He came to my workshop because he wanted to learn how to, it was called Speak from the Soul and Sell. He wanted to learn how to be more, tell more of his story, and how to have back of the room sales. And so one of my points was, your job as a speaker is to divide the room, is to polarize the room with what you're saying, so that it's stimulating enough where you get the people that are like, oh my gosh, I got to hear more about what she's saying. And then you rope those people in who are hungry for what you're sharing. And then the people who sit there like this, right? Those are the 20% that go, I'm not going to listen to her. She can't fool me. She's just going to sell it to me, whatever is going on in their head. But they're not in the open space to learn. And I said, that's your job, because you want to polarize the room, because that means your talk is impactful. It's impacting the people that want to hear you at a higher level. It's impacting the people who think that they don't want to hear what you have to say or learn. They're just the naysayers at this point. But you stimulate them in a way, you spark them. And he said to me, this guy said to me, yeah, no. As a keynote, you want to get the whole room. You want the whole room to like you. And I said, dude, like, okay, maybe that's in the keynote world and I'm not getting it. Maybe you pay and that's what you get paid to do. But I said, I disagree, because you don't take people down to a deeper level. And number one, your story takes people on that deeper level. Your story is the conversation piece. And the call to action is the next most important piece. The content, quite frankly, they can learn from your story. They can learn from the call to action. They won't remember your content. They'll just remember snippets of your story. And I think that is what's important. That's a conversation, not being talked at.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people miss the whole idea that every part of your presentation needs to have stories, because stories is the catalyst where people go, oh, I'm going to remember that. That was good. It's not usually the tip. It's the story behind the tip.
Exactly. And some people, and like myself, when I first started to share my story, which it took me a couple years to do, I felt really vulnerable, and I thought no one's going to want to hear me. But more importantly, if I tell my sad story, if I tell my down and out, no one's going to want to coach with me, because a coach is supposed to be superhuman, right? That the what do you call it? The superheroes are out now, right? And I was told, no, that is not the case. So the most important bit about your talk is not only your story, but it's client story, it's client example, it's world life examples, it's day of examples. So let's say something happened in the day and you're traveling to your speaking event. It's like, well, today, this is what happened. So you start to share all kinds of stories. It doesn't have to be just your own. And I think that helped me, but now I could talk all day about myself and my stories without being scared.
Yeah, I think there's something that we're like, oh, you don't want to hear that, because you've heard that from your family, and oh, don't focus on that. Just go on. And people really do. They love that kind of juiciness. So tell us, Odette, how can we connect with you more? What are you offering the lovely listeners today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have put together in this last year, I really took a look at what is the most important thing that a business owner needs to grow their business, to create more income in their business, but also to create more impact. I'm all about impact now, because, hey, you might as well, this world is in dire need of us stepping up and creating impact. So we all have gifts and talents. And I put together a program and a webinar called Speak from the Soul and Sell in 6 minutes or less. And it's about how to uncover your story, embrace your story, how to write your talk, what are the components of a talk, and then how to move people into action in a very short amount of time, so that you don't have to be the 60-minute keynote. There's so many talks that are 5 to 15 to 20 minutes that are left on the table. And that is where I'm focusing, because I grew my first business to 7 figures by 5-minute office presentations all across the GTA, which is here in Toronto, Ontario. So the webinar is how to make $40,000 in one 6-minute talk template. And so we have the template and we have the webinar. So if you're interested in getting to learn how to speak from the soul and sell, the URL is odettepeek.com/webinar. So it's odettepeek.com/webinar.
Love it. All right, everyone. Immediately get connected with Odette. This is the point where you Oh yeah, I need to know this woman. Yeah, of course. So go over and then of course follow her. You know, her name kind of sticks out, so it should be easy to find.
That's right. That's right.
So follow her social media, get connected, say hello. Obviously, if you're going to have an upcoming event, you want to definitely book her, right? And get connected and make sure you grab a hold of that webinar. So thank you, Odette, for being on today.
Thank you, Tonya. You're so wonderful. Got me pumped up this morning.
Right, exactly. All righty, everybody. And hopefully we will see you in Las Vegas, July 6th through the 8th. Remember, go to Public Speakers with an S conference.com to find out how you can come and meet so many fabulous people and, of course, meet me. So I will see you there. And thanks, everyone. See you next time for another fabulous show. Thanks, Odette.